This episode is made possible by the realistic online game War Thunder. Check out this game through the link in the description below. Go through our link and you not only support this show, which is cool, but you get a free premium tank or aircraft and 3 days of premium time as a bonus. Just before we get into it as well, I do want to say that there's going to be some tricky pronunciations in here. I'm looking them up when I can and doing my best. If you're not going to like it and it's going to trigger you or something, you don't have to watch. It's cool. Let's get into it. The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. These are the first sentences of the Sunzi Bingfa, known in the West as The Art of War, one of the oldest treatises on strategy and warfare, and for sure the most quoted around the globe. Its 13 chapters offer high-level strategic advice to rulers and generals, focusing on a series of key principles which should always be kept in mind, lest one takes the road to ruin. Some of its commandments are very specific to warfare in the ancient world. For example, chapter 12 is entirely dedicated to attack by fire, but most of its teachings they can be extrapolated to a variety of situations outside of the military environment, including politics, finance, marketing, and even sports. But what do we know about its author, the legendary Sun Tzu, also known as Sunzi? Well, really surprisingly little, especially for a man who had such an enduring influence on the politics and history of China at first, and then the whole world. But in today's Biographics, we attempt to clear up at least some of the mist that shrouds the life of Master Sun. To fully understand the man Sun and the profound legacy of his work, we first need to look at the historical context in which they appeared. The years between 770 BC and 476 BC are known as the Spring and Autumn period of China. For these 3 centuries, the land was ruled by the Zhou dynasty. The Zhous applied a feudal-like system with large swaths of land being administered by local lords. If a disagreement broke out, the lords would settle them by means of small-scale military engagements waged during bronze weapons and riding on top of richly decorated chariots. These battles, which actually more like large duels, were regulated by a code of honor and valor based on the philosophy of Confucianism, which values strict adherence to a system of traditions and social rules. Here's a great example as narrated by historian Robert Griffiths. In ancient China, war had been regarded as a knightly contest. As such, it had been governed by a code to which both sides generally adhered. Many illustrations of this are found. For example, in 632 BC, the Qin commander, after defeating Chu at Cheng Pu, gave the vanquished enemy 3 days' supply of food. This courtesy was later reciprocated by a Chu army victorious at Pi. The chivalrous approach to war was made possible by the small size of the armies and the low stakes at play. But the Zhou dynasty was on the decline until they were finally removed from power, and things, well, they changed for the worse. A vacuum at the top normally causes the emergence of regional powers who are all vying for supremacy. And this is what happened in China during the so-called period of the Warring States. 7 main kingdoms, Jin, Chu, Qin, Qi, Wei, Yu, and Wu, alongside their vassal states, were at war for much of the 6th and 5th centuries BC. Think Westeros after King Robert's death, or Westeros after King... You get the idea. Obviously, this constant state of conflict had a massive impact on society. The rulers of the 7 kingdoms could not afford to go to war on fancy bronze chariots, but most of all, they couldn't afford to lose. And so bronze weapons, they were replaced by iron, which is cheaper and deadlier. Chariots, they were discarded in favor of cavalry and infantry units. The warriors, aristocrats, and heroes who rode into battle during the spring and autumn gave way to large armies of conscripts numbering in the tens and even hundreds of thousands. And large numbers of well-equipped, well-fed men, they required tons of money. Who's going to pay for it all? Well, of course, as usual, that would be the peasants, the merchants, the ordinary folk who were hard hit by taxation that depleted the land and sowed dissent. The kings of the warring states needed some expert advice, not only on how to overcome their foes, but how to do it efficiently and quickly. But who could provide that advice? Sun Wu, later known as Sun Tzu or Master Sun, was born in 544 BC in the northern state of Qi, in the modern-day province of Shandong. But please don't take this date too seriously. The exact century in which the master lived is disputed, let alone the exact year, but let's just settle for 544 for the sake of this video. He was obviously literate, and he knew a couple of things about war and leadership, and he traveled across the warring states, which leads us to infer that he was a Shir, or a member of the landless aristocracy. The Shirs were traditionally traveling academics, but Sun Wu was more likely a traveling mercenary. It was this particular trade that took him to travel from his birth state of Qi to the southern kingdom of Wu sometime around 510 BC. The state of Wu was at that time a sort of underdog in the Chinese Game of Thrones, if you will. This kingdom is located in what is now the Shanghai province, and back at that time it was smaller and less populated than its rivals, especially the large neighboring state of Chu. That is why the ruler, King He Lu, was looking for a top-notch military advisor to organize and lead his army in war. According to some accounts, at this stage, Master Sun had already written The Art of War, leading to He Lu to summon him to his court. According to others, Sun Wu was only a low-ranking officer in He Lu's army at this point, but his skills in unconventional tactics such as ambushes, espionage, and counter-espionage, as well as surprise attacks on enemy camps, had raised the attention of the king. But what everybody agrees on is how he got the general job. King He Lu challenged Sun Wu to demonstrate his military skills by organizing some war maneuvers, not with the soldiers, but rather with court concubines. Sun Wu accepted the challenge on two conditions: no interference from the king and absolute obedience from the concubines. Sun then proceeded to create two platoons of 70 or 80 concubines each, appointing as platoon leaders the two favorites of the king. He then instructed the concubines on how to perform a series of marching orders in coordination with the drumbeat. But when the drum sounded, the two lead concubines burst out laughing, and the two platoons did not obey the orders. Then Sun Wu was pretty much like, well, that's cool, if they don't obey me the first time, it's generally the general's fault. I wasn't clear enough. Therefore, Sun gave marching orders to the concubines again, this time making it very simple and clear what they had to do. And again, the drums went off, and again, the two favorites just couldn't stop giggling. So at this point, Sun Wu commented that he, the general, had done his duty, and it was now the fault of the officers if they were not executing the orders. To show that he meant business, he ordered two guardsmen armed with axes to apprehend the two concubines. He Lu, watching at a distance with his court, dispatched a message asking him to stop. "Please, Sun Wu, do not chop these ladies' heads off. My life would be less fun without them," is what we will assume the note said. To which Master Sun replied that when a general is in charge, his orders must be carried out. The axemen, they decapitated the two squad leaders. The deputy lead concubines were put in charge of the platoons, and soon the maneuvers were carried out perfectly. It does seem that the general threat of decapitation is a pretty powerful incentive. Who knew? So in the end, King He Lu wasn't too upset about all of this, and basically he appointed Master Sun as his lead general of the army. Okay, now there's a couple of points we need to get to here. Number one, we all have a lot to learn from Master Sun and his book, but I would not take his advice when it comes to job interviews. Chopping off the head of the CEO's life partner will not get you your dream job. Point number two, I personally find it a bit difficult to believe that this is a true story, and 10th century scholar Yi Chengxi agrees. It sounds more like a bit of a parable to illustrate some key lessons which appear again and again in the art of war. What are these lessons? Well, that's absolute obedience of the officers to the generals. Discipline, coordination among ranks, independence from the military, from political power in wartime. These are the values that make an army of men into an army of heroes. Now, just before we get on with the rest of today's video, I do want to take a moment to tell you about today's rather appropriate sponsor, War Thunder, who make these long videos possible. War Thunder is a realistic, free-to-play military vehicle combat game. War Thunder is available on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. You don't need all of those, just one of them though, and there's also no need to purchase. You can just download the game and play. In this game, there are over 1,200 historically accurate vehicles, all the way from the 1920s to the 1990s. So no bronze chariots, unfortunately, but some more modern and effective stuff. All of these vehicles are carefully built and incredibly detailed, and all of the physics has really been sweated over, so it's all very good. And look, you can just jump in for a quick arcade game, which is useful if you don't have much time, or you can play realistic for some more challenging stuff, or there's always simulator mode if you like getting your ass whipped. So join us on the battlefield for free using the link below. Doing that helps support this show, which is cool, and it also gets you a free premium tank or aircraft and 3 days of premium time as a bonus just for registering. And let's get back to it, shall we? So what exactly was so revolutionary about Sun Tzu's approach to warfare? His main contribution was to apply Taoist principles to the conduct of military campaigns. Unlike the adherence to traditions supported by Confucianism, Taoism emphasizes adaptability to the natural flow of things. Moreover, the Tao Te Ching reflects a horror of war and a yearning for peace. By combining these two principles, you obtain the foundation of Sun Tzu's military doctrine. Follow the natural path to victory rather than adhering to contemporary conventional wisdom. If possible, avoid war. The greatest victory lies in defeating the enemy even before a war has begun. But if a war begins, the best way to achieve peace is through a swift victory. These precepts of Sun Tzu's were soon put to the test in one of the many conflicts opposing the kingdoms of Wu and Chu. At the decisive Battle of Boju, Sun Tzu is said to have led the Wu forces along with King Helu's brother Fugai and defeated the numerically superior Chu army through his use of tactics. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu writes, "Though according to my estimate the soldiers of Chu exceed our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of victory. I say, then, that victory can be achieved. Though the enemy be stronger in numbers, we may prevent him from fighting." In other words, take the initiative, attack first, attack fast, attack where the enemy is weak, and prevent him from concentrating his forces. This is exactly what happened at Boju. Despite Helu's protestations, Fugai listened to Sun Tzu's advice and charged the Chu army. They defeated them in a series of 5 further engagements, which culminated with the capture of the enemy capital of Ying. Fugai's success in the Wu-Chu wars was due to his own courage and his belief in the precepts of Sun Tzu. First, he collected intelligence brought by spies, through which he learned that the opposing general, Nang Hua, was despised by his troops and that they had no will to fight. Second, he refused to adhere to the standard rules of war as understood at that time. He did not let the enemy retreat to safety. He attacked them while they were crossing the Qingfa River, prevented their formation of lines, and even later attacked them while they ate their dinner. So you might have noticed something about this account of the Battle of Boju, and that's that the main action was led by Fugai, with Sun Tzu almost being a shadow in the background. You see, it's rather interesting to note that we have these precise historical records of other generals at King Helu's court, but nothing so precise about Master Sun Wu himself. It may have been, in fact, that Master Sun Wu was exactly that, a mere phantom, an embodiment of a set of values, rather than a real person. Or if we wanted to stay more grounded, Master Sun may have been a composite character, the result of different historical figures merged into one by inaccurate historical records or an oral tradition. 2 characters could plausibly be at the origin of the legend of Sun Tzu, Wu Zixu and Sun Bing. Wu Zixu was born sometime at the end of the 6th century and was the son of a nobleman called Wu Shi from the state of Chu. When Wu Shi was executed for an alleged crime, Wu Zixu fled Chu, and after wandering through the warring states, he finally came to Wu. Here, he became acquainted with one Prince Guang, to whom he suggested usurping the throne. Guang killed the rightful King Liao and became our now good friend King Helu. Wu Zixu became Helu's chief advisor, so that checks the advisor to the king box of Sun Tzu. Wu Zixu then took advantage of his position of power to take revenge for the unjust death of his father, and he led a campaign against the state of Chu and conquered the rival state in 506. And this checks the second potential Sun Tzu box, and that's of course conquering the capital of Chu. For his military success, he was rewarded with the territory of Shen, but with Helu's death, his fortunes they started to decline. Wu Zixu did not see eye to eye with the new king Führer, who, after defeating the state of Yu and Qi, wanted to go for the full hegemony of the whole of China. Wu Zixu advised against that, as he was aware of the limited power of the kingdom of Wu. Eventually, King Führer favored another general, Bo Pi, over him. Slandered by the new favorite, Wu Zixu accepted a sword presented by the king, which he used to kill himself in the year 484 BC. Sun Bin, known also as Sun Ping, was rumored in life to be a descendant of the legendary Sun Tzu. He lived between the years of 380 and 316 BC in the state of Wei. He studied military leadership under 2 great generals of the period, Pang Guan and Master Guiguzi. But the old teacher, Pang Guan, became envious of his pupils, and he slandered his reputation. This was quite common at the time, it seems, and always had dire consequences. The king of Wei punished Sun Bin by cutting off his kneecaps. The word bin, in fact, was not a part of his name at birth. It rather indicates this type of punishment and was a nickname given to him in later life. Somehow, Sun Bin managed to escape to the northern state of Qi, where he was hired as a general and led successful campaigns against Wei. His preferred tactics are a close match with some of those found in the art of war, such as encircling the enemy forces and attacking the weaker enemy formations, which requires more support from other units. After his successes with Qi, he retired to the state of Chu, where he probably died. What makes him a candidate to be the real-life Sun Tzu, or at least one of the characters that inspired his legend, is that Sun Bin authored his own Art of War. The book, titled The Art of Warfare by Sun Bin, was discovered by archaeologists in 1972, and it reads like an expansion to the original book, which is attributed to Sun Tzu. Whatever the truth about the identity or existence of Master Sun Wu, the man's life will always be secondary to his greatest achievement. A short book in 13 brief chapters, which can be read in little more than an hour, and yet is charged with a relevance that has spanned centuries. What we know for certain about this book is that it was first written in the 5th century BC and later amended in the 2nd century BC. It later spread to most of East Asia, gaining notoriety, especially in Japan, around the 8th century AD. We know of at least one Japanese warlord who used it as an emblem for the 4 Chinese characters of wind, forest, fire, and mountain, which represent a famous maxim from Sun Tzu's work. Strike like the wind, be as tranquil as a forest, be as devastating as a fire, and as firm as a mountain. The book was finally formalized in its current version in the 11th century AD, but we had to wait until 1772 for it to be introduced to the West, thanks to a translation by a French Jesuit priest. The Art of War rests on a few key principles, some of which we've already hinted at. The main point, which is a stern piece of advice to all rulers, is that war should not be taken lightly. It is a matter of life and death for the state and the people living within it. At the very least, it should be avoided at all costs, and if this is not possible, it should be extensively planned and prepared and concluded as swiftly as possible. No state ever benefited from a prolonged state of war. If you want to know more about Sun Tzu's philosophy of warfare, I strongly encourage you to go and read the book. You can read it or listen to it for free in a lot of places online. But if you can't spare an hour of your precious time, I'm going to do something a bit different for this channel now. I thought it would be good to summarize it because, well, it's really, really good stuff, and you can't do a biographics about Sun Tzu and not have some stuff about the Art of War. So let's get into it. Chapter 1. Planning. The 5 key factors of war are strategy, weather, terrain, leadership, and management. By considering these factors and comparing them to the enemy, a commander can calculate chances for victory. Chapter 2. Waging war, or the economy of warfare. Success lies in the ability to win quickly and effectively, thus limiting the cost of military campaigns. Chapter 3. Strategic attack, in which the master tells us that the strength comes from unity, not size. Chapter 4. Disposition of the army. Obvious but true. It's about the importance of being able to recognize strategic opportunities and to not create opportunities for the enemy. Chapter 5. Forces. This is about using creativity and timing to build up your army's momentum. Chapter 6. Weaknesses and strength. This is Taoism at its best. Always adapt your tactics to changes in the environment. Chapter 7. Military maneuvers. This is about the dangers of direct conflict and how to win if you cannot avoid it. It suggests using initiative to impose your own will on the enemy and fight under your own conditions. Chapter 8. Variations and adaptability. This is sort of a Taoism second round. Adapt your tactics to the enemy army's responses. Chapter 9. Movement and development of troops, or how to evaluate the intentions of the enemy while moving across their territory. Chapter 10. Terrain, and 11. The Nine Battlegrounds. Both of these chapters discuss how to interact with different types of ground to your advantage at strategic and tactical levels. For example, at the strategic level, if positioned at an intersection between 2 or more factions or states, always seek an alliance with at least one of them. And a tactical example, when encountering high ground, either occupy first and hold it, and if you can't, avoid it at any cost. Chapter 12. Attack by fire. There are 5 ways to do so. Burn the soldiers, burn their stores, burn their baggage trains, burn their arsenals, shoot fire missiles from the distance. Chapter 13. Espionage. There are 5 types of spies: locals spying on the enemy, infiltrated spies, double agents, spies sowing false intelligence on purpose, and surviving spies, basically those who make it alive back to your camp. Foreknowledge and deception are key to the conduct of war. In fact, one of the most quoted maxims of Master Sun's is exactly that. It goes, "All war is based on deception." So I really hope you found that video interesting. Hopefully you learned a little bit about ancient Chinese history and the men who may or may not be Sun Tzu. If you're less interested about the author and more interested in the book, let us know in the comments below. If people are into it, we'll make a video about the Art of War, probably do a top 10 about it on my other channel called Top 10s, which I will link to below. Let us know in the comments if you're into it. We'll do something like that. And as always, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to check out our fantastic sponsor, War Thunder. And as always, I'll see you next time.